what I'm thinking about today. I was thinking about this last night and I decided to talk about it today. After I went through a healing process, the next phase of that is the recovery process. And the healing and recovery process is different for each person. How long we remain in the healing process and what I call the pre-healing process, which is the process, that's the time that it takes for us to find out exactly where we need to heal, which starts off with us owning up to our own crap. And that takes some time depending on how real you're able to be with yourself and how fragile, weak, or strong your ego is. Some people get stuck at that point and never get to the healing process. Some people don't make it that far. So, then after we be real about who we are, our behaviors, the things that we're doing consciously and subconsciously. In other words, looking on the other side of the shadow, looking at the things that the shadow that we created, the shadow that was created from trauma, but looking at what that shadow is blocking. And that's why I say most people, I ain't gonna say most people, some people never make it beyond that phase. Some people never come out of that phase because the ego is too fragile to accept the things that's on the other side. That's the reason why we created the ego, and the ego was created in the first place, because we've experienced some things that was too much to bear, and the ego serves as a callus over those wounds. Over those wounds. It's a protection, and it's healthy, and it's normal. And please don't let anybody tell you you have to get rid of your ego. So after we keep it real with ourselves, and we see all the unflattering things that are going on in our minds, all of the unflattering things that we do, think, behave. After you go through that process, then you could go to the healing process, because like if you don't know what you're going to heal, I mean, that's just like when you go to the medical doctor. The medical doctor do a series of tests. The medical doctor go do some things and check out some things to figure out where to treat. Then you go through the process of treating those things. Then you go through the process of healing from that. Then you go through the process of a post-healing, a recovery process. Now, I didn't know that it was this many stages to it. I understood about doing some recognizance and go and see why the hell I'm doing all this dysfunctional stuff and doing things that not healthy, things that's not serving me, not serving me well, not serving me for what I want out of life and who I want to be out of life. But it's definitely servicing me, a disservice it was. Then I had a whole phase of me breaking a trauma bond. I had a whole phase of me untangling myself from codependency, reprogramming my mind from codependency, which I'm not saying that that's impossible, but it's not for the faint of heart. So my ego took a lot of hits. I, in other words, sacrificed my ego to heal. I sacrificed my ego to get where I wanted to go in life, to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. I sacrificed my ego. Now, what I was thinking yesterday is, in this post-recovery process, it was more about me tending to the wounds of my ego. And when I think about how some people say all kinds of stuff, I don't know, that's on them. But some people believe that the ego should not be there, which is totally untrue. It is there. So that's more delusional stuff. So in this post-recovery process, it was about me tending to the wounds of the ego, and because the ego is the most fragile part of ourselves, it took me to be very tender and gentle with the parts of my ego, while being gentle with parts of my ego that was tender. And that was hard because the ego is so difficult to deal with. So take time and listen to the ego when it's telling you something is hurting. Because all the while throughout my life, the ego doesn't just serve as a catalyst and a buffer to protect us from things that's difficult to deal with or hard to deal with. And it's not just a protective layer. It's also a security. It's also alerts us what needs to be addressed or what needs to be tended to more delicately. That's all I was thinking.